Hello and a very warm welcome to today's session. I hope you all are doing good. आज के session में in the next 4 to 5 minutes, what we are going to do is we are going to look at a very strategic way in which you can manage your CA inter-level tax paper so that you score the maximum possible marks. Now, how can this be done? Stress-free preparation of tax paper. We are going to look at a very strategic approach that helped me and that has helped many people who prepare in a smart way to manage their tax paper at the inter-level. Let's quickly look at this approach. What we are going to do is we are going to divide your tax paper into two parts, direct tax and indirect tax. That is fine, but we are going to divide direct tax into two parts. The first part is of the core chapters that you cannot ignore at any cost. Now, I'm not asking you to ignore the other chapters. All I'm asking you to do is put your focus more on these core chapters because they form an important part of your tax paper, of your direct tax paper. So here are a few chapters that you cannot ignore at any cost. The first one is PGBP. Then the second one at the inter level is house property, although at final level it doesn't matter much. Then we have capital gain. Then we have salary. It is again one of the most important chapters for CA inter level students. And then we have TDS. So all I'm asking you to do is while you are starting your revision or while you are revising, begin with these core chapters. Why am I asking you to do it? There's a very important reason behind it. Because when you complete these chapters, you feel like there is a sense of accomplishment that you have completed the most important of the core chapters of direct tax. और जब आप इन chapters को complete कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद आप दूसरे chapters की preparation को start करते हैं, revise करना शुरू करते हैं, then you notice that there is nothing very big left in your syllabus. So the other chapters form, and again we can say deduction also comes in this category of core chapters. You cannot begin with other chapters first and then look at these ones. All you need to do is, because these chapters actually carry a lot of weightage in your direct tax section. So PGBP, house property, capital gain, salary, TDS, deduction. You don't have to repeat the questions again and again. Again, I would say do big questions from these chapters if you have less time left, and definitely there is less time left right now. All you need to do is look at the big questions of these chapters so that all your small concepts get covered. And the next thing I would say is, or the next category is of other chapters. Now, what do other chapters mean? Other chapters simply consist of chapters like clubbing, set off, provision for filing return, and self-assessment, computation of total income and tax. Now, computation of total income and tax is definitely a combination of all the concepts. लेकिन clubbing है, set off है, provisions for return filing and self-assessment. All these chapters are important, but still they do not form the core part of direct tax. So what you need to do is begin with your core chapters revision first and then move to the other chapters. So that जब आप ये chapters करते हो, when you complete the core chapters in your direct tax, then you feel like yes, you have more confidence now in your direct tax exam. And the next thing I would say is focus on the other chapters. These other chapters are important, but not as important as the core chapters, because if you are able to master the core chapters, definitely you will be scoring very good in your direct tax exam. And the next part of this video is going to be for core chapters of indirect tax, ITT. So here are a few chapters that form an important part of your indirect tax syllabus, which are ITC, exemptions from GST, time and value of supply. These chapters cannot be ignored at any cost. Now, I'm not asking you to ignore the other chapters. All I'm asking you to do is master these chapters first so that you have a very strong foundation, you have a very strong grip over your indirect tax syllabus, and then definitely you can move to the other chapters. And I'm going to share a very good strategy to deal with the other chapters in a while. And now let's look at the other chapters of your indirect tax. Although the heading here is of core chapters, but these chapters come under the category of other chapters like introduction, registration, tax invoice, e-way bill, payment of tax, returns, etc. All these chapters, now I'm not asking you to ignore these chapters. इन chapters को ignore नहीं करना है, लेकिन these chapters have very minor provisions that can be forgotten at the last minute. What you can do is cover the core chapters first. For example, ITC के बड़े questions, time of supply के बड़े questions, and category of questions, place of supply, value of supply, all these questions need to be covered. And when you're moving to the other chapters like introduction, registration, tax invoice, e-way bill, payment of tax, returns, etc., Do multiple revisions and prepare small notes for yourself. Let me share my example with you. When I was preparing for my CA exams, in small chapters के लिए, in other chapters के लिए, I made some small notes so that I could revise them at the last minute. Because फॉर एग्जाम्पल रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए टर्नओवर की लिमिट क्या है, या इंट्रोडक्शन में जीएसटी को लेवी करने की पावर कौन से सेक्शंस, कौन से आर्टिकल्स में दी गई है, स्टेट लिस्ट, कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स. दीज आर वेरी वेरी माइनर प्रोविजंस. फॉर एग्जांपल ईवे बिल की लिमिट क्या है, ये प्रोविजंस हम एट द लास्ट मोमेंट माइंड से भूल जाते हैं, या ये प्रोविजन स्किप हो जाते हैं हमारे माइंड से जब हम लास्ट मोमेंट की प्रिपरेशन कर रहे होते हैं. सो कीप दीज चैप्टर्स for the last minute. Now I'm not asking you to ignore these chapters right now and then revise them at the last minute. Keep revising them right now as well. लेकिन for example अगर आप ITC पढ़ रहे हो तो then you know how to solve a question of ITC. It is a very important and a very big concept. लेकिन when it comes to small points like registration की turnover limit, e-way bill की limit, then you have return की due date, all these points are very small points and you must revise these points at the last minute. Big questions can be mastered, but when it comes to small points, and if we make mistakes in these small points, then we lose marks. So if you really want to score good, then cover the core chapters first and keep revising the other chapters of direct tax and indirect tax. And at the last minute, do not forget to go through your self-made notes or whichever books you are following, and keep revising the other concepts till the end. Like ask yourself small questions or write these small provisions down, because even at the last moment you'll find ki yaar shayad I'm forgetting these small points. You might be able to remember the big points, but small points might get skipped from your mind. And now let's look at the next common important point to manage your tax paper. The first one is revise the provisions as much as possible. Now I'm not asking you to revise all the provisions by simply looking at them once, क्योंकि ये practice help नहीं करती in the long run. All you need to do is ask yourself questions or solve questions or look at the adjustments, write down specific notes with specific questions that are tricky, and then you have solved as many questions as possible. You still have some time left, so all you need to do is keep revising the big questions which cover important concepts. And the next thing here is for the last minute revision. As I shared with you, it is easy to remember big questions sometimes, but when it comes to small points, we tend to forget them at the last minute and we tend to lose marks. So do not ignore the last minute revision of other chapters that cover very, very minor points and provisions that can get confusing at times. And the last tip for your tax paper, and in fact for each paper, I would say, is first of all, cover your 40 marks in the paper. Do not get attached with questions like I can share my example with you. कभी कभी ऐसा होता था कि I used to start with the first question कि ये chapter तो आता है यार, and then I started with that question and then I was unable to deal with that question, because of which पूरा paper spoil हो सकता है. So the best thing here is जो आता है सबसे पहले उसको attempt करो और अपने 40 marks secure करो, and then you can move to the other questions. इस बारे में आप बहुत ज़्यादा sure हो, only begin with those questions and do not look at other questions until you secure your 40 marks first. So this would be all for today's session. Thank you for watching this video and all the best for your tax exam. Thank you.